Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first and hopefully only living room luncheon. My name is Amalia Luxardo, and I am your CEO at the Women's Foundation of Southern Arizona and your host for today. I am honored that you have taken time out of your schedule to learn more and join us in celebrating the important work happening to empower women and girls in our community. This time last year, my breath was taken away by the 1,000 people who packed the Tucson Convention Center to attend this luncheon because they know that when women thrive, our community prospers. Today, I am overwhelmed and overjoyed to be part of a community that has come together for women and girls across Southern Arizona. I am so proud of all of you, and I'm forever grateful. While I wish we could all be together in person, I am so glad that we are all here together online, and I am thrilled to report that our planned speakers and honoree have all spent time in the last few weeks to make sure you hear from them today. Before we begin the program, I would like to thank this year's sponsors, with a special thank you to Tucson Electric Power, our co-founders, Melody Robidoux and Harriet Silverman, our board of trustees, our advisory council members, our luncheon committee members, especially this year's co-chairs, Gabriela Cervantes and Lindsay Welch, our volunteer committee members, Unidas participants, Tucson Public Voices fellows, and last but certainly not least, the Women's Foundation staff. This work would not be possible without you. I would also like to thank our current and future donors who have so generously to continue to stand beside us. Today's celebration is made possible by you. The Women's Foundation of Southern Arizona is committed to achieving social, political, and economic change that empowers women and girls in Southern Arizona and across the state. We do this through research, advocacy, grant making, and leadership development. Our advocacy is one of the ways that we harness our collective power to extend our impact to the rest of the state by working to enact legislation that increases economic opportunity and levels the playing field for women and their families. This year's honoree has been a critical part of making that work possible, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you Pamela Grissom. Pam Grissom is the chairperson of the board and one of the founders of Arizona List. Pam was the first woman on the board of the Boys and Girls Club and Junior Achievement. She was an original member of the Women's Studies Advisory Council at the University of Arizona and works on the community board of Women in Science and Engineering. Please welcome this year's honoree, Pam Grissom.
So welcome everyone to another episode of Super Shiro. And I know that this particular recording is special because it's going to be airing for our living room luncheon. And we are featuring our honoree for this year, Pamela Grissom. Welcome, Pam.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. You know, like I'm staying safe at home.
Good. Not everyone in our audience has had the opportunity to meet you and know you, and so I was wondering if we can start by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a native of Tucson. My parents both came here, one from Milwaukee, one from Alabama, towards the end of the war, and they loved it here. I went to Amphi High School, went to U of A. And I love the desert. I'm very happy to be living in the desert. I live up where I get to see a lot of nature that makes me very happy. And when I was in high school, we were so lucky enough to have an American Problems class as seniors. And that's when I started noticing the ways that people talked about the unwritten rules that were different between men and women. And I never really bought into why the rules had to be different. And I remember the class laughing at me because I would challenge them. If boys can do this, why can't girls? If girls are not supposed to do this, why are boys allowed to do it? And then when I had a business here in Tucson years ago, the Grissom Talent Agency, I was very proud of all the self-improvement classes, and I still have people come up to me and thank me for the training and the confidence building that they got many, many years ago. Still very good friends with some of my staff from the past. And, you know, being a young woman in business in the 70s was another example of how men and women were treated. I never I never really took any feminist theory, but I lived what was going on between men and women and how the rules were different. And I was, the 70s feminist, didn't quite know what to do about it. And when I went to a political convention about 35 years ago, I really discovered my yearning for more fairness and equality and leadership opportunities for women, and how to develop women as leaders, how to have more women speaking out on certain issues. And I realized that my lane for my feminist leadings was really going to be politics.
Because you've done all these things and you started so long ago in this political world, what has been to date either a lifetime achievement or a career highlight for you?
Well, number one, I'm 70 years old. I'm healthy. I never smoked. I took Canyon Ranch advice seriously. I want to continue to be healthy. I want to live to see my granddaughter get married someday. I want to live to see a woman president. But as far as an achievement, I think that the event that I've worked with women individually, giving them scholarship opportunities, sending them to Washington to attend conferences. I've given money and time to national organizations that study women's leadership, how to build effective women leaders. I'm not a Gloria Steinem. I'm not going to have national recognition or write a book, or many, but I feel like I'm in the flow of so many smart women who have a passion for making the lives better, not only of women and children, but of everyone. And one of the ways that I have felt I've been able to better people's lives is really by supporting women political aspirations and getting more women elected. And I think that I'm going to continue. My lifetime achievement isn't over yet. I'm still in that stream. I'm still in the flow of doing the things that I personally feel I'm capable of doing, to have more opportunities for women and children.
And speaking of being surrounded by a gaggle of smart women, now that our state is, some of the largest cities in our state are run by women, how does that make you feel?
Well, it's very exciting. Arizona has a reputation in the past for electing women, but we noticed about 15, 16 years ago, there was actually a trend towards fewer and fewer women in the state legislature, fewer and fewer women that were willing to step up. Very few women had the ability to fundraise or to become a serious contender for a race like mayor. So in founding the political organization, founding Arizona List, we've really discovered that there's a growing need for, it used to be we had to really encourage women to run. Women never thought they were qualified to run.
Right.
Over the last 3 years, women have been coming out of the woodwork, wanting to have a voice, seeing the need. We've got excellent women in the military, in education, in the medical field, in business, who are all stepping up and wanting to be candidates. So we are slowly have been building the number of women on school boards, in the state legislature. We're very proud that the 3 largest cities in Arizona all have women mayors right now.
Yep.
I wouldn't want that job at the moment. I'm not sure this is what they had in mind.
Probably not.
But I feel very comfortable that we have a lot of women's voices that are a part of the solutions that we need to have.
And now that more and more women are coming out and interested in participating in this political space, what do you think are your 3 pieces of advice to them, that for folks that have never run before, have never been in the political field before?
Well, I think that many women that I've known over the years, they get into politics because they're passionate about an issue. Their son was killed by a gun, so they want to get involved with gun legislation, or they want safety, or they want better education. So I think that women get involved in politics because they really care about an issue. And I think it's important that women really have that passion and know what are the things that drive them. It's not an easy life. In Arizona, the legislature doesn't get paid much. It's a real sacrifice in a way to have to be involved with public service.
Right.
So I think that women need to know and understand, what their contribution is. I think there's organizations like Arizona List and others who can give them some training in how you run a campaign. You have to take it seriously. And you have to have, without the passion and the drive, it's like anything. You don't really believe in what you're doing.
Right.
And I think the women that I've met over the years on many different levels, from local to federal, really care about what they're doing. And I think that would be the number one thing.
Tell me a little bit more how you got connected to the Women's Foundation.
So I think the Women's Foundation is great because you've seen a need to help women and children and families. You've done the research on what the status of women and families are in Arizona and really found that there were needs. Single women running households have it harder. There's many reasons why women don't earn the same amount of money as men. You guys have been very proactive in wanting to be more involved in a bipartisan way in politics and hiring a lobbyist to advocate for women and children's issues in the state legislature. I was proud to be a partial funder of that. So I've seen that as the years go by, you've kept up with the times and have been growing as an organization and really trying to figure out how you can plug in and best meet the needs of our population here. We've
certainly tried to. Any predictions for the next election?
Oh gosh, no. I know what I'd like to have happen.
Let's hear it.
Well, I think we need, how they keep talking on news, the evidence-based science. They want to hear from the scientists what's real and what's fact. And so I think whatever candidate can really, really talk honestly about issues in a way that resonates with people. People are scared right now and they want answers.
Yeah.
And we'll see as the months go by what that's going to bring. I've been very proud of the women that I have known who have been leaders that have put so much effort into this. I know one woman in the back east who, when she got a divorce and made a huge settlement, she took all of her money and has put it into researching how would make women better leaders. On a local level, there's just so much need and so much positiveness that we need right now. Yeah. And I think there's you support a lot of organizations that are doing a lot of great things.
We do.
And I'm just proud to be a part of doing whatever I can. There's a lot of brave women that are stepping up and facing the challenges and the problem solving that we have. So it's a real privilege for me to get to know these people and to be inspired. Any woman that wants to run for the state legislature, gosh, God bless them. We've got such fabulous women this year, with military backgrounds and education backgrounds and business backgrounds that really know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I'm glad to be in the flow of helping the people that I'm able to help.
Those were all the questions that I had for you, Pam. Is there anything else that you want to add? Any takeaways, any pieces of information you want folks to have?
Well, I just want to thank you. I want to thank everyone who donates to the Women's Foundation. Helping, we have all heard this before, helping women is helping everything. It helps the world be a better place economically, socially. And I'm very proud of my association with you. I think it's exciting to be your honoree. I've in the footsteps of many fabulous women that have won this award before. I'm anxious to see who's chosen next year. Maybe they'll get to really have a luncheon.
We hope so.
So yeah, I just want to thank everyone who supports the Women's Foundation, because you guys are doing very important work. And the more we can get women and children emboldened and educated and made stronger leaders, the better our state will be.
Thank you, Pam, for all that you do for our community. One of the things that guides our advocacy is research and partnership with universities across the nation, including the University of Arizona. We identify focus areas by working closely with our nonprofit partners who help us dial in on key issues that have an impact on women and girls across the state. We are one of the few women's funds in the country to make systems change at a policy level. And we are proud to say that as leaders in this field, we serve as a model for best practices in communities large and small. Thanks to your support, we have made tremendous strides for women and girls at the Capitol in issues that impact them most, including affordable housing, healthcare, childcare, and education. Early on this year, we ran HB 2104, a bill that would allow low-income mothers to attend school full-time and remain eligible for childcare subsidies. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19 and the implications that it has had on the legislative session, our bill is currently stalled. We continue to work with our partners at the Capitol and will keep you updated with any news. Before I move on, I would like to give a special thank you to our gold sponsors, Intermountain Centers, Tucson Lifestyle Magazine, and Audio Visual Management. Our next speaker has been named Women of Influence locally and across the US. She was named 2019 Women of the Year by Greater Tucson Leadership and is a 2020 cohort member of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program. She has a passion for making a difference in community and industry efforts and frequently speaks and publishes. Please help me welcome CEO of Cushman Wakefield PICOR, Tucson's very own Barbi Reuter.
So I am here today with Amalia, Luxardo, the CEO of the Women's Foundation of Southern Arizona, and we are joined by Barbi Reuter, the CEO of Cushman and Wakefield PICOR, a locally and nationally recognized woman of influence, a 2019 Woman of the Year in Greater Tucson, and an all-around superhero. Barbi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to get to talk to you both.
So for those of you who don't know Barbi, I wanted to invite you to tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us your story.
Oh, thank you, Amalia. And I, again, appreciate being here and the invitation to speak to your audience and the community, because community is a huge passion of ours as a company, and me personally, having kind of grown up in this environment. But a little bit about me. I came to Tucson when I was 12 with my mom and sisters, and grew up in a pretty super shiro household, single mom. After my parents divorced in Colorado, we moved here to be closer to my grandparents. And so I grew up and attended TUSD schools and the university, and started typing leases for the guy who soon after founded our company 35 years ago on Saturdays as a college student, and stayed. And fast forward 35 years, it's our company anniversary today.
Wow, congratulations.
I'm here through a variety of iterations, from going from part-time student to carving a niche with a new business line for us, which was property management at the time, to building and leading that division for 20 years, and then moving into company leadership and becoming part of the succession plan and taking over as CEO just in January.
So Barbi, you mentioned that you grew up in a superhero household. Tell me a little bit about how that shaped you into the person that you are today.
So my mom is really my superhero. She found herself divorced in the 70s at a time when there was quite a bit of gender discrimination, and from a credit standpoint too, she was very frustrated that she had run the finances for the family and could not get a credit card in her name. she went back to work. She had been educated as a Latin and art teacher and had to support our family. Again, we moved to Tucson to be close to family as a support system, which was important. But she worked so hard. She paved the way. One of the first jobs she had after the divorce was in a woodworking studio in Colorado Springs, where she wore steel-toed boots and was shoving pieces of wood through a machine, and or on the receiving end of it, actually, where she realized they were doubling up and trying to force her out by showing that she couldn't keep up. And she had so much grit and resilience. She did not get deterred. She would come home and we would unlace her boots and stuff them in a tank of, a bowl of water and pick the splinters out of her fingers with tweezers. But she just never gave up. And she encouraged and paved the way for other women to go work there. She was the first woman to work in that studio, and got in a position where she could hire other women and open the door for them, which was just who she was.
Just from your experience being with your mom and knowing the situation at hand now, do you have any advice for the mamas out there that are really juggling everything?
I think just having those connections where you can reach out to people that are like you and people who aren't like you, who can give you a different perspective. It's very meaningful. And we, I've got one group of women leaders that I usually meet with monthly for a physical meeting for 3 hours. And we've just set up now a couple of one weekly happy hour slot and one weekly lunch hour slot with a Zoom meeting for anybody just to check in and share with each other, which is really great. So, I think taking care of ourselves physically, because our routines change, is so important. Having those connections, those are the two primary things that come to mind for me.
What would you say to other CEOs right now about navigating these times remotely, working from home or working, kind of solo? What would you say to other business leaders?
I think the first thing that comes to mind for me is that, it's okay to be vulnerable, but as a leader for your team, to show the way with some strength and confidence is really important. And also to give them the space, whether it's a team of 2 or a team of 200, to give them the space to feel comfortable. They need extra communication from leaders now more than ever before. I take for granted that people know we're financially solvent and we expect to stay financially solvent, but Lord only knows what's going through people's heads when they turn on the TV or open the paper. So it's really important for us to communicate where we are and what we're doing to protect their livelihoods, and to let them know that they're essential right now, because everybody is. Not everybody's able to work right now, whether they've been deemed essential by the governor or not, but everyone is essential to this economy, and we're going to get back to it.
Yeah, I think agree that vulnerability, that constant communication, those are some key factors, but also flexibility and adaptability. We're in a time where things change daily, sometimes by the hour, and we don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know which of us might be impacted by this virus. I think the other part about the transparency piece, and just so I can name things, we've been referring to COVID-19 as it and the happening, and I think a lot of us are having a really hard time just naming that it is a virus, right? That it's an illness out there that is affecting all of us, and I think in a lot of our head spaces, we've just been putting it in a box and calling it impacted by it, so I just wanted to name that. But as far as flexibility and adaptability, because things are changing so rapidly and we don't know what's going to happen next, I think we have to be just as flexible with our staff. For the Women's Foundation specifically, all women. Most of us are mothers. Several of us have school-aged children. At 11 o'clock this morning, I was teaching math.
Yeah.
Something that I am not certified to do, but nonetheless, I was doing it. I'm fortunate enough to have a partner who is now doing spelling with my son. But it's those things that aren't really in our regular work schedule, but we have to somehow put them in the hours where our children are awake. And so just being flexible with folks' schedules. Some people have their anxiety has risen. They can't sleep at night, and so they sometimes need to sleep during the day at some point, and they're more productive in the evening now. So it's really just being able to change with the times and be there for your staff the best that you can possibly be.
What would you say to a young woman right now who's maybe really early in her career and, whether she's lost her job or is on furlough or is working from home, what advice would you give her right now?
My younger self didn't take a lot of risks, and that's one regret that I have. I don't regret my life, I don't regret my path, but if I were to give advice to a young person, I would say it's the time in your life when you can take risks, and that failing is an option and it's a good option, and don't be afraid of it. Fail fast, fail often, many wise people have said, because those iterations help you find a better path.
To Barbi's point, I wasn't necessarily risky, but I definitely explored very different opportunities. And yet those weren't the ones that led to where I am today. Because just life gave me different things, and I was able to grow and learn, and I finally found my place. So I wouldn't let this moment in time define the rest of your life. Everything is just a blip, and you'll find your way.
Anything left unsaid that you'd like to say before we wrap up?
I have so much respect for people, and this comes from my backstory, I think. People who have overcome difficult circumstances with grit and courage, and probably everybody has overcome a difficult circumstance. So we all have it in us to learn from adversity and to convert the worst things that have happened to us into our better qualities in terms of how we overcome them. I like many people, and we question ourselves, we doubt ourselves, we have that imposter syndrome that we're going to be found out that we're a fraud, that we don't deserve the recognition or the accolades that we're getting. We're not as smart, we're not as beautiful, we're not as whatever. And those are voices that really bring us down and keep us from fulfilling our potential. And so to the extent that you hear those voices, and I hear them, God knows, every week, to tamp them down with the other voice that really tells you that you're capable, you're intelligent, you're productive, you're all the affirmative things that you have and the qualities that you have to get through the next day, the next challenge, the next opportunity.
Thank you, Barbi. What an incredible journey you've had. For nearly 30 years, the Women's Foundation of Southern Arizona has worked to create positive change for women and girls and the communities in which they live. One of the ways in which we achieve this is by investing in nonprofit partners that help increase their income and assets, creating significant financial impact across our community. This year, in response to COVID-19, we have shifted our grant making to support organizations who work with women and girls who are at the front lines of this pandemic. In a few short weeks, millions of women, including our caretakers, service industry, and retail workers, lost their jobs first when COVID-19 swept through our nation. These women are largely single mothers and the breadwinners of their families, experiencing different challenges during these times. Many no longer have work. Many more do not have the privilege to work from home, and others cannot complete their job training. I am filled with nothing but the utmost respect for these women, our warriors, who are making their way out of nothing at all. COVID-19 has exposed and amplified systemic inequalities, particularly those around gender and race. And today, you can join us in our long-term commitment to systemic change and centering women in recovery efforts. For every dollar that is invested through the Women's Foundation of Southern Arizona, $10.80 is created in our community. And with the support of generous donors, Ann Lovell, Kendra Mouche, Helene Levy, Linda Robin, and Leslie Glaze, you can double your impact today. For every dollar that is given to the Women's Foundation, it will be matched up to $40,000. If you are able, please make a gift today at www.womengiving.org/donate and change the lives of women and girls. As we continue to support our grantee partners in new ways, over the last several weeks, we have virtually interviewed over 20 powerhouse women leaders to amplify their work. In this effort, we have a campaign to recognize our local superheroes that include our nonprofit partners, community leaders, and women warriors who are the boots on the ground providing support services in our community.
Oh, the list is so long. When you asked that question, I was like, ooh, how am I going to narrow it down?
Women that, are home with their children and feeling and just experiencing different types of trauma. They're the heroes. They are maneuvering through this and being the rock for their family.
The women that are coming through to get services and who are really being vulnerable with what they need.
The staff of our family services, they are doing a phenomenal work right now. And then the other, just hats off to all of the single moms.
Network of women that I connect with in an organization called Women Within. Mamas and friends in my network that provide support and comfort. My colleagues that I work with at the Women's Foundation are amazing and are superheroes in my eyes.
So one is our program operations manager. Her name is Sarah, and she is just like this logistics goddess. And then my other superhero is my sister. She is a single parent of 2 kids, and she represents the reality of a lot of families right now.
The people on my staff are the first people that come to mind.
Our CEO, Elizabeth Slater, has just led with such clarity despite the uncertainty.
My grandma, June Kreger, was a single mom with children, but she always saw the best in people.
Well, I'm inspired by my team, my partners.
My staff, all these women are really committed to staying on top of this with people and encouraging the folks that they serve.
People who have kids. I have absolute admiration for people who have children who have dedicated themselves to raising great, strong families.
We have a wealth of powerful women, and everybody has their different strengths.
Her name is Patty Wiley, and she was my mentor and actually my advisor when I was in college at the U of A. Also, Melissa Vito, she was my boss at the university for many, many years, and she's a very strong, focused, dedicated person to higher education and many other things. I definitely pull from the things that she taught me every day.
I've really been impressed with our neighbors on the avenue.
And also I'd have to say, like right now, people in the medical field, they're really putting their lives on the line for us right now.
It's no secret that one of my heroes is Dolores Huerta. She is the co-founder of the United Farm Workers Union and a feminist and a wonderful, amazing, resilient fighter for all things social justice. I want to be able to reflect that in what I do.
My mom, obviously, which I think a lot of people are going to say is one of my heroes, because she's instilled so many essential life lessons for me, just about being strong, about being determined and focused and driven, all those things, which I didn't realize until I got older that she taught me.
Definitely my grandma has always been an inspiration to me. She was a nurse. She's no longer with us, but she's always been one of my role models. But then thinking about all the healthcare providers out there that are just so critical during this time, doctors, nurses, everyone who's out there on the front lines right now.
I would say the ladies who work in my office, because of their selfless service and because of their love and because they put up with me.
Inspiring me right now are the 3 fabulous medical assistants that I work with on a day-to-day basis. These 3 women are on the front lines with me every single day. They are, in my opinion, brave and, unnerving. They're wonderful, and I'm very, very grateful to have them by my side every day.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you, Super Sheroes, for all that you do for women and girls across Southern Arizona. For more Super Shero videos, please visit our YouTube channel, including interviews with our nonprofit partners. And if you happen to be on Facebook Live, you should be seeing a link pop up in your chat box, so you can click there. Before we hear from our last speaker, I would like to thank our silver and bronze sponsors. I would also like to acknowledge that all of our sponsors who signed up before COVID-19 have continued to keep their gift with us. Much of the recognition sponsors receive is in person at the luncheon, and we are incredibly grateful for their generosity. Thank you for standing beside us in these unprecedented times. I would also like to introduce one more special guest joining us today. A powerful community leader who has taken Tucson by storm. Graduate of the University of Arizona, this leading scorer and WNBA champion rewrote history for women's basketball at the university. Adia Barnes led the Wildcats to their best season on the court and their best academic year in the program's history. Under her guidance, the team has broken record after record, bringing in the largest crowds that the McHale Center has ever seen for women's basketball. In addition to her playing and coaching career, Adia is an active community member, mentoring underserved youth, helping with community service projects, and giving back through the Adia Barnes Foundation. It is an honor to introduce you to the fearless coach, Adia Barnes.
Coach, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I can't thank you enough.
You're welcome. And sorry we have to do this via Zoom, but Zooms are all of our new best friends.
It really is, and it's keeping us safe, so it's what we have to do. Yep. So you had this incredible season. What was it like when it was cut short?
It was devastating, I think, because you don't even realize what a great run you did, and because what you work for the whole year is for the end result. You work for placing the tournament. For us, for our program, it was going to the tournament. So all of our work and all the stuff we did to prepare for the end moment, it was just hard. I really felt bad for Lucia Alonso. She was my first recruit here at Arizona. She had been here 4 years. She was with me building this whole program. So I was sad for her. I was also really sad for Dominique Mcbride. She was a transfer here. The year she transferred, we had won 6 games. She was one of our most important players. She will be missed tremendously, and she missed the tournament. And then Amari Carter and TT Starks. Amari transferred from Penn State to do something special, and then we don't make the tournament, so she never had that tournament run. And TT, I talk her into coming back to play for a 5th year, and she gets hurt. She misses the whole season. She's on the sideline, has to have another surgery, and then we don't make the tournament. So I think I was sad for me and the pro, but I was my heart was just broken for those kids.
Yeah. What was the communication with them like when you had to break this news?
So I was heading down to practice because, that week's kind of long. You got to do preparation. It's over a week. It's 2 weeks actually. And you're getting ready for the tournament. You don't know who you're playing. So as coaches, we're preparing, watching 5 games each of who will probably play because we don't know. And then I'm going down the practice, And I get the call on my way down to Richard Jefferson. So as I got that call, it was completely over. I thought at first, I was devastated in the beginning because at first before that, I heard that we were going to play in McHale possibly with no fans. And that was devastating itself because the whole purpose of hosting was to sell out McHale. And I knew in Tucson we'd sell out McHale. And then, but that wasn't even like as bad as, you know, that them canceling everything. I think that it was hard to swallow because it's not something you could have ever imagined would happen. Like no one in a million years would have thought this would happen. So I think it was more, and you understand as a coach, like it's the bigger picture, but it was one of my hardest moments. It was my hardest moment as a head coach, going to talk to my team. I have to be strong and not cry, and I'm devastated. And I poured my heart and soul into the team too, and then have to tell them, and like everybody starts crying. It was a very hard moment for me. And it was devastating. The kids were devastated. So I gave us a couple hours after that, and I said, hey, I didn't want to just like leave them hanging. So I took them to Mr. On's after, at least so we can, it was kind of like a not so happy celebration, but it was just, I said, hey, we need to be proud of what we did. And I think for everybody, it hadn't really sunk in at that time though.
What do you do to kind of keep that sense of team while you're far away?
So you're still talking. I think the Zoom is really good because everybody gets to see everybody's faces. I think it's natural on any team where you just talk to your good friends. So they probably don't want to be on Zoom with me all the time, but that's okay. So I think Zoom with us, Zoom with the strength and conditioning coach. I just have conversations at FaceTime. Like I talked to a couple players today. So I'm just checking in. I think they're just really bored. And I think for an athlete, it's a very tough time because you don't know what's going to happen. Like when you're a senior, you can't really plan on playing overseas right now because there is no overseas playing. All of our foreign kids are going to play with their national teams. That's all canceled. So I think for athletes, it can be similar to like a grieving process. They don't have something they've always had, which is a lot of their sense of identities. So I think it's harder for them. Like I'm older, so I have a different perspective. But I think so just being there to support them and keeping them engaged, keeping them interacting, I think that's the most important thing.
Did you have a top moment of the season?
I had a lot, but one of my top moments was beating Stanford at home. I only beat Stanford one time in my college career as a player. Unfortunately, they've been good for that long. That's how awesome Tara is. But I think beating Stanford, because that was our first top 5 victory. Of course, from last season or season before last, was winning NIT. That was special because it was kind of the stepping stone to change the program and the momentum for this year. And I think those are some big, big moments this year. And I think the situation at the end of the season, to be in a situation where we know we're going to the tournament, at the beginning of the season, I didn't know we'd be in that situation. I knew we'd probably make the tournament, but I didn't know we'd for sure be in. So I think being in a situation where we had to buy in the Pac-12 tournament, when we were going to make the tournament, but not only make it, host, I think that was a good feeling because it just showed me how far this program has came. And I think the last thing recently, a couple weeks ago, it's a way too early poll for ESPN. It's way too early rankings, but to even have the recognition for them to think that we're going to be a top, like number 7, it's just uncharted territory. We've never had that. So I think for us to have that, it just shows all the hard work and where this program is. And it's taken a lot to get there. And I think we've done that in a very short amount of time. So I'm just proud of where it is. We're no longer rebuilding. We're on the climb. So I like that. Climbing's fun.
Who are your super sheroes?
Gosh, I have so many super sheroes at different phases of my life. One of my super sheroes would be Rocky the Rose. Rocky the Rose is a phenomenal woman. She's someone who I called before I took this job. She's someone who I really respected as a student athlete, and I admired her and watched her power and her and the way she had presence, and she was just like a kick-ass woman. And I love everything about her, so I still keep in touch with her. And now she's like on this other page. She's taking pictures of whales all over the world and going to, look for polar bears in Alaska. She's just awesome. My mom, obviously, which I think a lot of people are going to say is one of my sheroes because she's instilled so many essential life lessons for me, just about being strong, about being determined and focused and driven, all those things, which I didn't realize until I got older that she taught me. But that's where I get who I am from, the core of who I am. And there's just, I have a lot more. My college coach is someone who, Joan Bomassini, she's one of my heroes because she believed in me when other people didn't. And I wouldn't be where I am today without the opportunities that she gave me in college. And I came to Arizona because of her.
You're a coach, you're a leader, you're a parent, you're a spouse, a friend. I mean, yeah. How do you do it all?
I think that, I don't know, like, I used to always ask that. I used to always ask, like, how do you do it all? How are your mom? This, that. I think that, like, I'm so used to doing so much. It's just what you do. That's why it's been an adjustment for me. Not going to work, not having 10 things in one day, even though I have 10 Zoom calls now. It's been different. And I think that it makes you step back and say, wow, but I think that for me, it's an honor. It's not being a role model, giving back, like inspiring young women is an honor. And it's not like it's not a task or something I have to do. And I think it's awesome because I wish I would have had amazing role models. And I did as I got older because there were more. But I remember like when I was 10 years old, I played in the all boys league because there wasn't a girls league. I looked up to all NBA players. I didn't have like a female that I looked up to then just because there wasn't one. So I think that having someone that looks like you, that is a woman, that's a head coach, a mom, and can be successful at doing all of it, or it doesn't have to be a coach. It can be a CEO of a business, a doctor. When you can do all those things and do them well, I think you have to go for it. I think there's so many women that quit because they don't think they can handle it all. And I think you just have to look at other strong women and know you can have a great career. You can be a mom, you can be a wife, and you can do just something has to give sometimes. Yes, like my house is a little messier than it was 10 years ago. But there's something that has to give, but I'd rather spend a little bit more quality time with my kid than come home and clean every day. So there's stuff that you give and take, but you can do it all and you can do it all great. And I think it's good for my players to see me as a mom. And sometimes it's hard. It is like for me, like my son was small and I was traveling with him. It was very hard. Like I never got to sleep on a plane. I felt like I traveled 10 hours and like on an hour trip to LA. But it's what I chose, and like the girls get to see that. They get to see me be a mom, a coach, wear different hats. They get to see me at home, interact with my family, and at work, and I think it's good for them. But it's not easy. But it's possible, and you just have a village around you. Like I have great support. We don't have family here, and that's unfortunate. That's hard. So you make friends, your family, and you have support, and that's kind of what we do. We help each other, and you just figure it out. And it's. I mean, anybody can do it. You just find a way. So, and if things are easy, they're not worth it. So I think things that are hard, it's like you get through it, you look back and you're like, wow, I did it. Like people told me when I took the job at Arizona that we would never be successful. We could never recruit here. This is going to be the bottom of the Pac-12. It's a job I shouldn't take. And some of my sheroes told me that. And I still took it, and we did something special here. So I'm someone, if you put your heart into it, and you're determined to do something, you will find a way. It may not be the traditional way. It may be the roundabout way. It may not look like other people want it, but you're still, when you believe something and you believe in it with your heart, you will find a way to make it happen. And it might not happen right away. It might take 10 years, but you'll find a way to do it when you're determined, I think.
Thank you, Adia, for so generously joining us and being a leader in our community. Congratulations again to you and your team for an incredible season. Tucson is so proud of you all. Here at the Women's Foundation, we pride ourselves in leadership development, helping to ensure that women have a seat at the table by building their capacity. Our leadership development programs, including Unidas, Tucson Public Voices, and the Appointments Project, all serve to move the needle in our community. What's more, these last few months, we have seen new leaders emerge with innovative solutions in response to this crisis that will guide us for years to come, and we are grateful to be walking alongside them. Remember, if you would like to make a gift to support women and girls, please visit www.womengiving.org/donate today. Every gift will be matched up to $40,000. I want to thank all of you and all of our sponsors again for joining us for this special living room luncheon. I am humbled and honored to be your CEO and know that together we will persevere. Stay safe and healthy.